Imagine a guy who started with absolutely nothing. An orphan, no family, no connections. Against all odds, he becomes the 23-year president of South Korea. But get this, a tragic accident leaves him with a disability in his legs? Sounds like a tough life, right? But there's a bright spot. He has a beautiful and supportive wife. She's not just any wife. She's a member of the National Assembly, a politician in her own right. She dedicated her life to backing her husband's ambitions. You can imagine their joy when he finally wins the presidency. It's the ultimate dream come true. But on what should be the happiest day of their lives, the new president drops a bombshell. He asks his wife for a divorce. Why would he betray her like that after everything she's done for him? Let's rewind to 2012, just a week before a crucial National Assembly election. Our couple, Min Cheol and Su Yeon, are on their way to a factory for a tough labor negotiation. Min Cheol is a candidate for the People's Party, and he's trying to mediate this dispute. It's a real conflict of interest because one side is the factory workers, and the other is his wife's family's company. Su Yeon, his wife, warns him not to push himself too hard, not to get too entangled. If it's too difficult, just walk away. But the situation is heating up. The chemical factory workers are staging massive protests. They're demanding their old jobs back and fair treatment. Then disaster strikes. A huge fire erupts at the factory, killing 6 people and injuring dozens more. Min Cheol, without a second thought, rushes into the burning building to rescue the trapped workers. He risks everything and ends up in critical condition himself. Su Yeon, who is recovering from some injury, sickness, wakes up in a panic and frantically searches for her husband. She finds Min Cheol covered in bandages, unconscious. She breaks down, begging the doctors to save his life. Hours later, Min Cheol is wheeled into surgery. Su Yeon waits, holding her breath. Finally, the doctor emerges with good news. The surgery was a success. She collapses in relief, tears streaming down her face. From that day on, she never leaves his side, taking care of him day and night. Even their young daughter comes to visit her dad. Then, a miracle. Min Cheol wakes up, tears in his eyes. Facing death made him truly appreciate the warmth and love of his family. Even though her husband is still recovering, Su Yeon takes on all his responsibilities. The accident left Min Cheol with a permanent leg injury, crushing his dreams of entering the National Assembly. But he has Su Yeon. She steps up and campaigns for him, delivering a powerful speech. Min Cheol's actions speak louder than words. He's willing to risk his life for the people. Vote for Min Cheol and together we can build a better country. The crowd erupts in applause, deeply moved by her devotion. Years pass, and Min Cheol finds himself in the final stretch of the presidential election. He represents the People's Party, facing off against a candidate from the Freedom and Peace Party. The polls are neck and neck. Today is the final press conference, a last-ditch effort to win over undecided voters. But as the time draws near, Min Cheol's team can't reach him. The opposing candidate has already started their broadcast, making promises left and right. It turns out Min Cheol is at the morgue, identifying a body. It's a woman, but her identity is unknown. Min Cheol is devastated. He stumbles into the press conference, a broken man. His team is frantic, demanding to know where he's been. He remains silent, his eyes filled with pain as he faces the cameras. The entire nation is watching his speech, eager to hear what he has to say. He takes a deep breath and steps up to the podium. When I first entered politics, he begins, I believed that you must change yourself before changing the world. Saving one person is like saving the entire world. Today, I want to share my story. I was born and raised in the city of mist. I was always scared of the fog because it obscures our vision. It keeps us from seeing what's right in front of us, even the people closest to us. I lost my parents when I was young and grew up in an orphanage. When I became an adult, I had to leave my friends behind, and my first love of 7 years also abandoned me. However, I found the only person who would always be by my side to help me, encourage me, and to walk alongside me on my political path. That person is my beloved wife, Su Yeon. He expressed his deep gratitude to his wife for standing by him through thick and thin. It didn't matter who became president. All that mattered was that that person passed labor laws to help people live in a safe and healthy environment. He didn't want to lose anyone else, Min Cheol said as tears welled up in his eyes. Thanks to these sincere words, Min Cheol's poll numbers skyrocketed into the lead. The whole country was moved by the love between the couple, and Su Yeon became even more beloved. She became an ideal role model for women everywhere. They even started copying her fashion sense. The public was buzzing, speculating about what she would wear on the big day, drawing huge viewership. Fans and reporters swarmed Su Yeon's house, eagerly awaiting the election results. 2 people with press passes managed to get inside, and they ran into Ji-yu, the couple's only daughter. She had grown up now, but was still quite introverted. She couldn't care less about clothes, ignoring the reporter's questions. The assistant who went in after quietly slipped Ji-yu a small bag of fruit, and it became clear it was an old acquaintance who used to be very close. Su Yeon had an entire room dedicated to her clothes, shoes, and accessories. It was every fashionista's dream. Today, of course, was a special occasion, and she wanted to switch up her look. Su Yeon decided on a pristine white pantsuit, simple, yet undeniably elegant. The boutique owner fawned over her, secretly snapping a picture. Su Yeon added a pair of bold red heels to the white ensemble. Su Yeon gives the young assistant an unfriendly look, borrows the assistant's lipstick to try it out, but says it doesn't fit. Su Yeon whispers to the assistant not to ever touch her things. It's unclear what this word of warning is about. Meanwhile, the election results were in. Thanks to his heartfelt speech, Min Cheol had won. He was the 23rd president of South Korea. From a disabled factory worker to the leader of the nation, what a story. People cheered and celebrated the new president. At home, everyone praised Su Yeon. With her husband as president, she would of course be the first lady. Su Yeon walked out to her car in the white dress and met with a warm welcome from the citizens. One girl quickly hails a cab and follows the car the first lady is in. On the other hand, the shop owner sends the dress design to a female streamer. That way, she can imitate the first lady's style as soon as possible on social media. People were excited, and views increased rapidly. The boutique owner and her assistant were packing up to leave when the assistant said that she had left her phone upstairs and needed to go back for it. The owner makes it clear that she's not happy with her assistant's carelessness. Not only that, but her assistant was also rude to the first lady. The owner scolds her for a bit and leaves, leaving the assistant by herself. Meanwhile, the first lady is on the way to the National Assembly building. Su Yeon was preparing to give a speech after her husband's landslide victory, with millions of fans waiting for the first lady. Su Yeon looked at her husband's picture, her heart aching, and thought of an unpleasant memory. That day, Ji-yu became a new student. Su Yeon, like other parents, brought a bouquet to celebrate her daughter. But above all that, Su Yeon wanted to give people a good impression so that they would vote for her husband. Other parents, seeing a celebrity, fought to get a picture with her. Coincidentally, her husband's secretary also had a son entering school who was on stage with Ji-yu to take the oath. Su Yeon turned and asked the secretary about a few private matters. What had her husband done when he suddenly changed his itinerary? She had asked him to look into it, but didn't get an answer. Ji-yu saw that her mother had brought flowers, but didn't seem happy. She knew that her mother wanted to build an image to vote for her husband and only wanted to show up because of that. Even so, Ji-yu put on a smile and pretended. She asked to study overseas, but this wasn't the right time. Su Yeon was focused on helping her husband get elected, and tomorrow was the crucial moment. She didn't want any bad things to happen. Ji-yu was beyond tired of being dragged into her parents' political circus. She just wanted to live her own life and be loved and cared for by her parents. Especially studying abroad, she wouldn't have to look at her father's face. It's all just a stupid joke. Hearing her daughter say that, Su Yeon was momentarily angered and slapped her daughter and asked the reason why she wouldn't want to look at her dad. Just then, Ji-yu angrily said that her dad had someone else and she caught him red-handed. The mother asked the driver to get out of the car so the two could speak in private. Su Yeon asked if anyone else knew about the shocking secret. Seeing her mother's unsurprised reaction, Ji-yu understood that her mother knew all along that her husband was having an affair with another woman, but that she was still okay with it. Could it be because of the title of First Lady and her ambitions? Su Yeon said that if the affair were to be revealed, it wouldn't just be a personal family matter, but would have serious consequences. She dedicated her entire youth to helping her husband just to wait for the election results. Ji-yu was speechless. She couldn't understand what her mother was thinking. Both sides argued, with no conclusion. Back to the present, Su Yeon had arrived at the National Assembly building. Millions of fans and reporters surrounded and celebrated the First Lady. The scene was reminiscent of a meet and greet for A-list celebrities. Su Yeon warmly and friendlily went around and shook hands with everyone. It was thanks to their support that her husband was elected. Outside, the motorcade carrying the president had also arrived at the National Assembly building. However, the secretary pulled Min Cheol aside to speak to him privately. What she said caused Min Cheol's expression to be tense. Afterwards, he went inside to join his wife. The crowd cheered enthusiastically in admiration of the couple. In another development, Ji-yu wasn't very happy at home. She knew that this family had fallen apart a long time ago and was just pretending to be perfect in front of the public. Her friends sent messages in the group chat, joking that they now have to call Ji-yu the first princess. Would the princess even want to hang out with commoners anymore? Back at the National Assembly building, a video showed Min Cheol struggling with his leg injury. He had to go through extremely difficult physical therapy. In these moments, a strong will was very important. Many times he wanted to give up, but luckily, his wife was always by his side, encouraging and pushing him. "I believe in you, you can do it. Let's keep trying just a little more. When you're too tired, lean on me." The months passed, and Min Cheol quickly recovered and started hobbling around. Everyone who saw the video was deeply moved and admired the couple even more. Su Yeon was the same as always and embraced her beloved husband. Suddenly, someone excitedly rushed out of the crowd and attempted to throw tomatoes at the new president. Without hesitation, Su Yeon quickly shielded her husband from the rotting tomatoes. Su Yeon's white dress was covered in red. Moreover, the person kept yelling curses at the lying, murderous couple. The bodyguards quickly grabbed him, but Su Yeon was calm and solved the situation. He said that they trampled on Taehoon's death to become president. After saying that, he spat on the First Lady's face. A female student ran over and handed a towel to Su Yeon to wipe her face. She looked at the name tag and knew that the kind student's name was Bora. Putting aside the incident, everyone celebrated the new president. The couple walked on stage to receive the limelight and waved to the people. Su Yeon was happy and excited, but Min Cheol's expression was more tense than ever. From the start, the husband never smiled. The crowd cheered and shouted, telling them to kiss. So the couple passionately kissed to please the fans. But out of nowhere, Min Cheol drops the bombshell, "Let's get a divorce." Su Yeon was shocked, stunned, and dumbfounded. It was like thunder in her ears. Su Yeon teared up, but tried to play the role of First Lady on stage. Then in private, she told her husband that she didn't want a divorce. What would the people of the whole country think? A new president, just elected, divorcing his wife. Just a few hours ago, his speech about loving the family got Min Cheol more votes, which helped him win. "If we get divorced now, my approval ratings will plummet past half." Min Cheol retorts, "Why don't you ask why I'm divorcing you, but just focus on yourself?" This only fuels Min Cheol's desire to leave. He's endured 20 years of marriage, and it's been suffocating him. His secretary urges the president not to make a scene, warning of potential chaos. She mentions that a divorce could jeopardize the labor laws he wants to pass. Convince Su Yeon and make sure the divorce happens peacefully, for the best. Min Cheol asks his secretary to investigate a traffic accident that took the life of a woman named Sun Jong, in which the perpetrator ran away from the scene. At that moment, the assistant returns to the First Lady's house to retrieve her phone. She takes advantage of the moment and scrolls through social media for the new president. The housekeeper sees her to the door and then makes it a point to stop by Ji-Yu's room. She tells Ji-Yu to go to sleep soon, then returns to her room. But the assistant hasn't left yet. She's secretly rummaging through the house. Ji-Yu holds a necklace pendant, filled with worry, remembering a time when she and the assistant were very close. They shared secrets. They were as open as sisters. Ji-Yu was about to text and ask about the changing room situation from before, but hesitated. She takes a cup and goes to the kitchen for a drink, and accidentally catches the assistant, who's using a light as she looks around. The assistant makes excuses but is unable to hide her suspicious behavior. Now exposed, the assistant says that she was searching for the pendant and asks if Ji-Yu has seen it. Ji-Yu is confused, and the assistant immediately figures it out, saying that the pendant is in Ji-Yu's hand. They start running, and Ji-Yu accidentally falls down the stairs. The assistant reaches for her, and they both lose consciousness. Elsewhere, Su Yeon wanders aimlessly. In one day, Su Yeon has to suffer through two shocks. Her daughter wants to study abroad because she knows her father is cheating, and her husband betrays her by asking for a divorce right after his election. The driver interrupts to tell her that her daughter fell down the stairs and is in the hospital, in critical condition. The doctor does a brain scan and performs a test. Luckily, there's no brain damage, and the patient is completely fine apart from a few scratches. The First Lady says to proceed with the normal tests and not to give them any special treatment. Min Cheol is confused as to why his wife still cares so much about their image. The doctor is in awe as he meets the president of South Korea. His wife is just like the rumors, thorough and poised. They go to Hwajin's hospital room, who also fell down the stairs. "It's because you were so careful and thorough about the image that Su Yeon helped you to get elected today?" But Min Cheol doesn't feel grateful and starts a loud argument with his wife. His goal in being president is to pass the labor law. The truth about the factory accident from 15 years ago still haunts Min Cheol. In contrast, Su Yeon believes that sacrifices must be made in order to reach success. Their loud argument causes Ji-Yu to wake up. The moment she sees her father, she feels disgusted. She exposes the whole truth in front of her parents. The necklace is proof that her father is having an affair with Hwajin. It turns out that Ji-Yu came home early one day and heard voices in the living room. She was shocked to see her father closing in on Hwajin. Ji-Yu started crying and ran to a room filled with pain. Min Cheol immediately says that it was all a misunderstanding, that Hwajin fell and he was just trying to help. But she doesn't believe him and tells him about the necklace. Min Cheol reveals that he and her mother are getting a divorce. Even so, his love for her won't change. He says that the children shouldn't interfere with what the adults are doing. Su Yeon wants to hold on to her husband and doesn't want Ji-Yu to get hurt. "It's not easy to accept your family has fallen apart." Su Yeon pulls her husband aside to speak privately. Min Cheol is determined to change the country with the labor laws. However, she is related to Yang Hoon and the illegal political funds. Min Cheol is investigating, and he can only choose between family and politics. As Su Yeon is unable to convince her husband, she temporarily says that they should separate. From tomorrow, the secretary will come to pack. Su Yeon goes to the hospital room to comfort her daughter, who is confused by the fact that her parents are going their separate ways. "I thought I was a princess born with a silver spoon, but all my life I've been dragged into my parents' careers." Ji-Yu says she is completely disappointed in her father and encourages her mom to divorce him, saying, "Living with someone like that will only torture you more." However, Su Yeon is determined to save their marriage. Suddenly, the housekeeper calls to say that Hwajin has disappeared. Su Yeon rushes to the front desk and asks who signed the discharge papers. They tell her that they can't share personal information, but that the patient left a few minutes ago. Su Yeon runs out, hoping it's not too late. Waiting for the elevator, she instead goes to the stairs. Running in high heels is dangerous, and she falls, bruising her knees. Su Yeon takes off her shoes and runs to the parking garage barefoot, looking like a mess. Here, she sees her husband giving the necklace back to Hwa Jin. Min Cheol tells her that he will end things with his wife as soon as possible. Su Yeon sees that it was Hwa Jin in the car, and a national security team arrives to pick up Min Cheol. On the road, he sees an elderly woman pulling a cart and remembers someone from the past. Min Cheol tells the bodyguards to drive to a noodle shop on the outskirts of town. Seeing an old photo hanging on the wall, Min Cheol fondly remembers decades ago when he first entered politics. The people in the photo are his brothers in the orphanage. They call the owner mother, even though they aren't blood-related. Even though life was hard, Min Cheol promised to strive and help them prosper. The woman who took the picture was named Sun Jong. She was the victim of a traffic accident whom Min Cheol came to identify. No wonder he was tearing up that day. He was going to say that Sun Jong had passed away, but didn't know how to start. The owner said that Sun Jong is still alive and well, but that she hasn't been in touch. Then, a young man rushes into the noodle shop. The bodyguards immediately lock his arms. He says that he is the lawyer for Ki-ju, one of the men from the photo who threw the tomatoes at the National Assembly building. He says that if the president ordered it, Ki-ju would be released. Min Cheol doesn't say anything and orders the lawyer a bowl of noodles. Afterwards, he says goodbye to mother and leaves the shop. The lawyer says that it's not every day that you get to meet the president. He says that if he had said a word, Ki-ju's case would be easy to solve. The mother says that the country has its laws, and whoever did wrong will face the consequences. And if he didn't do anything wrong, he would be released. She asked, why would he try to ask for a personal favor just because he knew them personally? Back at the parking garage, Su Yeon is still stunned. The housekeeper soothes the First Lady. She's taken care of Su Yeon since she was young, so she's very devoted. She says that if the First Lady has any injury, she will feel pain, that external wounds can be healed with medicine, but the scar in the heart is difficult to heal. Su Yeon says she's getting a divorce, and that her husband is moving out. She tells the housekeeper to pack her clothes and send them to the secretary. The housekeeper listens without asking questions and says that she will always support the First Lady. Su Yeon smiles, because even during hard times, there's still someone who trusts her and knows her. She returns to the hospital room to watch over her daughter. Su Yeon goes online and searches for how to have better communication between parents and their children. A prosecutor who is investigating Chairman Yang Hoon's illegal succession searched and seized a lot of things from his company. However, Yang Hoon denied everything, and the case was handed over to the public prosecutor's office. The next morning, the new president and members of the National Assembly took a photo together. There are still more than 2 months before Min Cheol is officially inaugurated. Suddenly, a reporter approaches Hae-rin with questions. Chairman Yang Hoon's illegal succession case is a hot topic. There are claims that the chairman has familial relations with the First Lady. Some fear that the chairman will approach the new president to seek private benefits. Hae-rin is careful with her words, because if there are any loopholes, she will be criticized. Everyone who participates in politics has complex relationships. With everything going smoothly, a van full of personal belongings sent by the First Lady arrives for the president. Given the rumors that their relationship is on the rocks, the reporters are even more shocked. President divorcing wife, the headline screamed. A poster suddenly fell, signaling misfortune. Citizens were speculating that the reason for their divorce was related to Chairman Yang Hoon's illegal succession. The First Lady is related to him, and the president wants to enact opposing laws. This divorce isn't just a personal matter, it's a brutal political war. Su Yeon and Ji-yu were checking out of the hospital when they heard the shocking news. The reporters flocked to them, wanting to interview them about the divorce. Su Yeon quickly grabbed her daughter's hand and ran. She didn't want Ji-yu to be photographed and haunted for the rest of her life. When it was most critical, the elevator became useless. The two are forced to run, but the reporters are close behind. Su Yeon calls her driver to pick them up. After running for a while, and thankful for the housekeeper and the driver who are blocking the door, the two can hurry and escape by car. But many reporters remain outside, unwilling to give up. Su Yeon swerves back and forth and almost causes a traffic collision. Later, they temporarily shake off the reporters. In the group chat with her classmates, her friends are continuously saying nasty things about Ji-yu's parents' divorce. Fearing her daughter is hurt, the mother quickly snatches the phone. In that moment of distraction and carelessness, Su Yeon crashes into a construction site. The two are left injured and unconscious. While unconscious after the crash, Su Yeon's childhood memories came flooding back. When she was young, Su Yeon's mother was swarmed by reporters. They suspected she was having an affair with a candidate. Even though her mother tried her best to protect her daughter, the reporters aggressively opened the car window and cornered the two. The situation now was no different. After Su Yeon and her daughter's accident, the reporters considered it shocking news and rushed to take photos frantically. Luckily, both Su Yeon and her daughter only suffered minor injuries. After getting stitches at the hospital, Su Yeon immediately and fiercely went to her husband's office. As the incoming president, Min Cheol was busy handing over work. But when he saw Su Yeon, the secretary called Su Yeon an outsider and said that outsiders are not allowed to enter. Luckily, Min Cheol wasn't too heartless, and he let his wife enter his office. Min Cheol asks how Su Yeon's injuries are. She attempts to look strong, saying that everything will be okay and that she will consider the crisis a new beginning. But Min Cheol mentions the divorce. He doesn't want to blow things up and wants his wife to agree to a peaceful divorce. Su Yeon gives the divorce papers back to her husband. She says that she can give up everything but can't lose him. She asks him to withdraw the divorce papers. She hopes that her husband will remember their 20 years together, everything they went through. But Min Cheol is cold and unmoving. Su Yeon sadly leaves, and on the way out she confronts his secretary, correctly guessing that the secretary sent the car and the divorce papers to the media. The secretary admits to it, saying that she is on Min Cheol's side and would do anything to help him win. Su Yeon has no power and cannot win in this situation, but has a strong will, declaring that low-level tactics such as involving the media won't bring her down. To keep her marriage with her husband and maintain her position as First Lady, Su Yeon has reached out to a famous reporter from a TV station and actively requested to be on the air. The next day, on television, Su Yeon spoke out in front of the audience and clarified her marital relationship with Min Cheol, stating that the couple have had debates but still support each other. Then, she emphasized that Min Cheol suddenly demanded a divorce and claimed that she was just a normal wife and mother who wanted to maintain her family's happiness. But unexpectedly, the reporter suddenly attacks her, mentioning that Su Yeon received large amounts of political funds from Chairman Yang. Su Yeon is completely caught off guard, as when she contacted the reporter last night, she emphasized that the condition for participating in the program was that nothing should be mentioned about the chairman. In the live broadcast, Su Yeon tried to remain calm, but was interrupted by the reporter with a breaking news report. In that report, Min Cheol officially sued his wife with a criminal lawsuit. He accuses his wife of violating the Information Security Act and says that for 20 years she has been bugging his pen and water bottle. Before this breaking news report, the reporter sharply changes her voice and questions Su Yeon about the wiretapping and doubts her claim that she's just a normal wife. She says that if the wiretapping is true, then Su Yeon is the one who broke the marriage. Under intense pressure from the reporter, Su Yeon could not hide her panic. She admits to the wiretapping, but explains that it was to protect her political husband, as she is more than just a wife, but also his political partner. The reporter immediately rebutted this explanation, claiming that Su Yeon was just making excuses. Realizing the situation was unfavorable, Su Yeon didn't bother arguing and rushed to end the broadcast. In her panic, Su Yeon nearly forgot to return the microphone when she left the studio. However, as soon as she reached the parking lot, a group of reporters was waiting to surround her. With no escape, Su Yeon turned around and ran. Just outside, a man waved at her, telling her to get in the car. With no other option, Su Yeon got in. The man introduced himself as Seon Ho, the lawyer who defended the factory workers. This time, he came specifically to meet Su Yeon, hoping that she could forgive the man. Su Yeon didn't want to delve into this matter, so she got out in the middle of the road and took a taxi. However, Seon Ho still followed behind, declaring that he wouldn't give up easily. Meanwhile, Su Yeon's daughter, Ji-yu, went to the hospital to get her stitches removed. There, she saw a mother playing with her daughter. The image reminded Ji-yu of her childhood memories when her mother taught her how to ride a bicycle. Ji-yu wished that time could stop at those happy days. But soon after, Ji-yu saw news about her mother appear on the television program. And when she heard others gossip about her, she only let out a bitter laugh. In reality, the reporter's on-air betrayal today was orchestrated by Min Cheol's secretary. She brought the wiretaps found in the pen and water bottle and placed them in front of Min Cheol, advising him to use these charges to sue his wife. But Min Cheol became angry. He said that he demanded a divorce to protect his wife and not to hurt her, and he didn't want to see her go to jail. Min Cheol reminded the secretary to stop here. He didn't want to see something similar happen again. For Min Cheol, the divorce wasn't because he was turning on her for political benefit, but just a way for him to quietly protect his wife. The current president has now begun investigating Chairman Yang and the benefits that Su Yeon has gained. But Min Cheol knows that the president's final goal isn't Su Yeon, but him. Therefore, he can't push his wife to the brink of danger, and that only divorce and cutting ties are the best way to protect Su Yeon. However, now the situation seems to be out of control. Min Cheol is restless and uneasy, and he isn't sure what the right choice is. Su Yeon takes a cab back home, but the front of the house is full of reporters, all of whom want to hear her response to what she said on television. Without saying a word, Su Yeon went straight into the house. Once home, she vomited, and the woman, who was always strong, burst into tears. She refuses to eat or drink all day and lies on the bed, looking desperate. Ji-yu urges her to eat, but Ji-yu is also under a lot of stress. After her mother went on television, she was mocked by her classmates. All her friends are waiting to see her and her mother fall to the bottom. After not eating or drinking for many days, Su Yeon finally struggles to get out of bed. Her phone is full of missed calls and messages from the media. Looking at her exhausted figure in the mirror, Su Yeon's memories are pulled back to her childhood. One day, when she was little, she witnessed her mother being stabbed to death. The horrific image flashes in her mind, causing Su Yeon to smash the mirror in front of her. Immediately afterward, her eyes suddenly became firm. She wouldn't let herself have a tragic ending like her mother. That night, Su Yeon struggles to get up and cheer herself up, determined to continue the fight. Therefore, she went to a law office for professional advice on the divorce. Su Yeon stated that her husband's ability to become president was at least half her achievement. She said, "So, I must take back half of everything my husband has achieved today." But the lawyer advised Su Yeon not to get a divorce. If she divorced, Su Yeon would lose everything a first lady could have. Based on the current situation, the lawyer advised Su Yeon to deny all the accusations from her husband and strongly counterattack. Su Yeon stood her ground, stating that she wouldn't give up. Even though this was a difficult battle, the lawyer suddenly received a call and ended their conversation, refusing the case. Su Yeon immediately realized that her husband must have quietly bribed the lawyer. As a result, Su Yeon looked for another lawyer. But after many inquiries, no one would take her case. In the face of this impasse, Su Yeon felt desperate, as if every path was blocked. Disaster struck again. Su Yeon received a call from her daughter's homeroom teacher, informing her that her daughter had gotten into trouble for hitting a classmate at school. She was a decisive woman who helped her husband become president, someone behind the scenes of power. However, to maintain her position as First Lady, she was now willing to use any means necessary, fiercely counterattacking her opponents. When Su Yeon fell to the depths of despair, she received concerning news. Her daughter, Ji-yu, had hit a classmate at school, and the scene was even videotaped. But the truth was that Ji-yu was being mocked by her friends, who said her mother was just being kicked out of her position. Angered, Ji-yu hit the classmate. Su Yeon immediately went to the school and apologized to the student and parents. But the parents refused to forgive her and demanded that the school expel Ji-yu. The chairman of the board of directors appears and helps Su Yeon solve the problem. The person was Hyun Yeon, Su Yeon's half-brother and Ji-yu's uncle. He was the son of Su Yeon's father's first wife. As soon as he finished arranging the matter, Jung Yeon advised Su Yeon to quickly sign the divorce papers with Min Cheol. Su Yeon realized that her husband was willing to use their daughter as a hostage in order to force her to divorce him. But in reality, Su Yeon was only half right, because Min Cheol did contact Jung Yeon, but only to ask for help with his daughter and never used her as a tool to force his wife. On the contrary, Min Cheol told Jung Yeon not to interfere in the divorce between him and Su Yeon. However, Jung Yeon had a different agenda. Behind everyone's back, he approached the girl who filmed Ji-yu and asked if the video was saved to the cloud before being deleted. It seemed like Jung Yeon wanted to use that video for his own purposes. Today's events made Su Yeon even more determined to protect her daughter. She began to agree to let her study abroad, but with the condition that she never makes the same mistake again. However, Ji-yu didn't express any remorse and stated that if it happened again, she would still hit him. While Su Yeon was struggling with her family, Min Cheol's secretary was also wavering between her career and her family. That night, she took her son out to eat spicy rice cakes, wanting to enjoy some rare time with him, but received a call from work halfway through, immediately abandoning her son to take care of it. For the secretary, compared to her son, the political path that Min Cheol opened up for her was the most important thing. Faced with his overly busy mother, the young son became dissatisfied and knocked the fruit juice over the poster. The next day, a defeated presidential candidate and congressman of the opposing party, Young Sun, was having lunch with Min Cheol and answering questions from the press. During the meeting, Min Cheol's secretary and Young Sun's secretary secretly exchanged words. They mentioned Su Yeon's wiretapping scandal. The secretary found out the true story. Su Yeon's father hired somebody to monitor her, the crazy daughter. Now Su Yeon's actions are just like her father's when she turns the tables and uses the monitor to wiretap her husband. After the press conference, Min Cheol had a private conversation with Young Sun. What surprised Young Sun was that the former political opponent invited her to be the prime minister. He hoped that the two could work together to form a cabinet, becoming political partners that transcend party barriers. To show his sincerity, Min Cheol promised to appoint a member of Young Sun's party to a leading position in the government. But Young Sun refused, suspecting that this was just a ploy to divert the media and quell the fallout from his divorce. Min Cheol continued to make promises and got straight to the point. What he's doing is because he wants Young Sun to help him push the Taehoon Act, saying with Young Sun's support, the bill would be passed quickly. Min Cheol said that the reason why he entered politics and became president was all for Taehoon. Taehoon was a colleague who worked with him in the factory, and who was injured in the factory fire. The labor accident was blamed on personal error. Min Cheol aspired to change the injustice of the country. It was that unwavering conviction that finally convinced Young Sun to cooperate with him. At the press conference, Young Sun announced that she was actively considering working with Min Cheol to build a successor government, and was promoting agreements related to the Taehoon Act. At this point, Ji-yu was packing to study abroad. Su Yeon discovered her daughter was not wearing the necklace that she had given her. Ji-yu suspected that it had been taken by Hwa-jin since she rummaged through everything that night. When Su Yeon asked Hwa-jin, the company said that Hwa-jin had suddenly resigned and was nowhere to be found. To make things more complicated, Su Yeon received countless messages from the media. Everyone knows about Ji-yu hitting a classmate at school because the video was leaked. Almost instantly, the citizens watched it, and the internet was flooded with criticism against the president. As Min Cheol falls into the court of public opinion, he contacts his secretary to understand the situation. After investigating, she discovered that someone had hacked the phone's cloud data. Min Cheol wanted to buy time, so his subordinates wanted him to delete the video, but the subordinate advised him to issue a nationwide statement and actively respond to put out public opinion. If not, the situation will spread and seriously damage the president. Min Cheol agreed, but he didn't plan to do exactly as his subordinate wanted. He wanted to wait for the opportunity and then hold a press conference rather than act hastily. Afterward, Min Cheol asked his secretary whether leaking the video had to do with her. If the secretary was behind the video, Min Cheol threatened to hold her responsible since the whole affair would affect Ji-yu. The secretary firmly states that she was not involved, but revealed that it was very likely that Hyun Min got involved. In return for covering up that Hyun Min wanted to take the seat of the Minister of Education and promises to handle it, Min Cheol told her that she can only serve as a communicator and should never make decisions on her own. On the surface, she agreed, but in reality, she partnered with Hyun Min. In the evening, Hyun Min contacted Su Yeon. Su Yeon said that her daughter had difficulty studying abroad because the school retracted its letter of recommendation due to the video. Su Yeon scheduled a direct meeting with Hyun Min. Hyun Min bluntly set a condition. If Su Yeon wanted her daughter to study abroad, she would have to sign the divorce papers. Su Yeon was certain that this was Min Cheol's trick, that he was using his daughter in order to force her to divorce him. Seeing that Su Yeon was still hesitant, Hyun Min contacted a reporter, threatening to leak the incident that happened at school, and deliberately showed Su Yeon himself preparing to go on air. For the sake of her daughter's future, Su Yeon was forced to give in and finally agreed to the divorce. The next day, holding the divorce papers, Su Yeon and her husband entered their final negotiation. Before signing, Su Yeon asked the secretary and lawyer to leave the room. She wanted to speak with her husband one last time. When it was just the two of them, Su Yeon recalled their first meeting, which was 10 years ago at a campaign rally. As the son born to his father's lawful wife, Hyun Min had support to become a candidate. On the other hand, Su Yeon had been behind the scenes for years, managing the elections for her brother and quietly shouldering all kinds of political work. It's because she was an illegitimate child she was never valued, and the glory was taken by Hyun Min. Hyun Min said that Su Yeon was just running errands. It was at that moment that Su Yeon met Min Cheol. He openly criticized the wrongdoing of Su Yeon's father, who was a congressman at the time, condemned Chairman Yang, and accused Hyun Min of drunk driving, assaulting police officers, and other crimes. He called on everyone to vote for him, and that he would change this city and bring benefits to the workers. Everyone treated him like a joke, except for Su Yeon. Before Min Cheol was dragged out, Su Yeon approached him with a confident expression and said that she would vote for him. She also said that she would help him become a member of the National Assembly, and now, 20 years later, Su Yeon has become a kingmaker. Su Yeon said that her strength was turning the impossible into the possible. Su Yeon decisively tore up the divorce papers, declaring that she had built her husband's career and would not let anyone take that away, and that her daughter would be protected by her hands. Su Yeon had had enough of the power struggle and made a promise that the future of her children comes first. Before leaving, Su Yeon returned the signing pen to the lawyer and warned the secretary that if she dared to touch her daughter again, she would never forgive her. Yesterday, Su Yeon challenged her husband. If he insisted on divorcing her, she would use any means to take him down. Su Yeon's words reminded her husband, Min Cheol, of the past. Many years ago, when Min Cheol first entered politics, when he was still nobody, Su Yeon supported him wholeheartedly and said that sincerity was Min Cheol's greatest weapon. Min Cheol came from a working-class background and could stand on the side of the poor people, not just say empty words like other politicians. But now, after being deeply involved in politics and wielding more power, both Su Yeon and Min Cheol seem to have forgotten the power of the sincerity that once drove them forward. On that day, Su Yeon's costume designer went to see Chairman Yang. Under orders, she brought a custom-made outfit for the chairman's special guest. When the designer arrived, the chairman's special guest was none other than Hwa Jin, Su Yeon's stylist. The costume designer was shocked, because the way Hwa Jin looked, with the outfit that Su Yeon wore as First Lady, was exactly the same. At the same time, Su Yeon was also looking at the costume in the glass cabinet, remembering the humiliation of that day. After that, she opened a secret door, entered a password, and opened the safe inside. This place contained countless recordings of Su Yeon's weapons. Slowly, Su Yeon's eyes stopped at a box that contained a necklace. Inside was the necklace she gave to her daughter for her high school graduation, which her daughter loved. Recently, it disappeared. The designer called Su Yeon and told her that she met Hwa Jin at Chairman Yang's mansion. Fortunately, though she lost the necklace, the problems that Ji-yu encountered were resolved. With the help of the lawyer, they found an important video that proves that the girl who was bullied by Ji-yu was the one who bullied in the school. Ji-yu decided to temporarily study because of the positive shift in opinion and wants her to continue to do what she really wants to do, saying, "Whether you get a divorce or not, it's up to you." Min Cheol has a headache about the divorce, worried that the war with his wife will hurt their daughter. So he contacted Jung Yeon, Su Yeon's half-brother. Unexpectedly, Jung Yeon tells the truth, and the secretary releases the video. The secretary and Jung Yeon made a deal. If Jung Yeon helped, she could get the seat as Minister of Education. Min Cheol was shocked. He had no idea that his secretary had been secretly attacking his daughter, so Min Cheol immediately announced that his secretary's promise would be cancelled. Jung Yeon's memories flashed back to many years ago, and Su Yeon and Chairman Yang ganged up and hurt Jung Yeon. Ironically, his father and Su Yeon's father stood up for his daughter and told Jung Yeon to withdraw from the battlefield. Jung Yeon couldn't accept his father's arrangement, even mentioning Su Yeon's mother's death, suspecting that his father killed his lover to help in the election. Angered by his son's words, the father collapsed. Jung Yeon bit his teeth, vowing to get everything back that belonged to him, and to see Su Yeon and Min Cheol fall together. The next day, Min Cheol confronted the secretary, but she stated her own reasons. Min Cheol, in order to sit firmly in the president's seat, must make sacrifices, even if that person is his daughter. For the secretary, the Taehoon Act that Min Cheol yearned for was also her goal. After the factory fire, the secretary stood alone and protested. Min Cheol didn't hesitate to help her, even holding it higher and shouting louder, demanding justice for the victims of the fire. And now, the secretary mentioned the act again. In order to have the act passed, Min Cheol divorced his wife, and the secretary made an oath. Facing the secretary who was almost crazy, Min Cheol couldn't work with her anymore and asked her to leave. Just after the dismissal order, Su Yeon's lawyer was holding a press conference, announcing that the divorce agreement between Su Yeon and Min Cheol had broken down, and insinuated to the media that Min Cheol was having an affair, stating that Su Yeon would soon file a lawsuit against the president. Seeing the news, the secretary became worried and wanted Min Cheol to postpone the dismissal until this is over, but Min Cheol said the dismissal was the official decision. The secretary will continue to fight as there is a difference from now on. Min Cheol no longer has anything to do. The person who organized the press conference on behalf of Su Yeon was Lawyer Kang. This was the first time that Lawyer Kang came to Su Yeon's mansion. Su Yeon was satisfied with Lawyer Kang's performance and decided to hire him to be her legal representative so he could take over her divorce case in return for his work in the factory for the man who threw the tomatoes at the president, which she will handle. Lawyer Kang was worried, seeing as it was the upcoming president, but Su Yeon's eyes were sharp. It was she who made a president, so Lawyer Kang didn't have to worry. Su Yeon had a plan, planning to start a media war first. For politicians, especially the president, public opinion is the most terrifying weapon. Su Yeon believed that the public would be more interested in the affair than the wiretapping. The next day, fans who were unhappy with Su Yeon's wiretapping were protesting. For the media war, Su Yeon waded through the rain towards them with a tearful face, begging for forgiveness. Besides apologizing, Su Yeon ordered the housekeeper to prepare tents for those fans in the rain, calling them family and pleading with her fans to come into the tents to get out of the rain. Her words stirred the fans, with a teenage fan helping Su Yeon and wiping the rain off her face. As Su Yeon says those heartfelt words that really moved the fans, in the warm family atmosphere, Su Yeon quietly fired the first shot for the media war that Lawyer Kang was looking at. Su Yeon fulfilled her promise and used her relationship to get Ki-ju out of prison. On the day Lawyer Kang went to pick up Ki-ju, he said that being Su Yeon's agent doesn't mean that he belongs to her. An old woman was cleaning Taehoon's tombstone. Someone had scribbled curses. To this day, people are saying that Taehoon was the arsonist. Lawyer Kang used to think like that. Years ago, his parents died in the fire, and he had mistakenly thought that Taehoon was responsible. But now everything he did, including approaching Su Yeon, was to avenge his parents. Lawyer Kang received a call from Su Yeon and said that she had enough evidence that her husband couldn't deny, and it was up to Lawyer Kang to think about how to take down Min Cheol. Lawyer Kang knew that both Su Yeon and Min Cheol would suffer heavy losses. To maintain her position as First Lady, she vowed to find her husband's secret lover. Unexpectedly, she hears that the lover is pregnant with the president's child. The one who gave her the clothing designs was at Yang's, and that's how she found out that Yang had a visitor, who was Hua Jin, and he was his special guest. Right now, Chairman Yang is being detained for illegal succession. Su Yeon realizes he probably knows Hua Jin is the president's lover, holding on to her, and is planning on using her to threaten the president. Su Yeon creates a plan, meeting the president's wife, who is the First Lady. The First Lady was washing dishes. Su Yeon joins her, putting on an apron and starting to help her out. The First Lady didn't want to be too involved with Su Yeon until she took out a box. Inside the box was a tape from many years ago which had a recorded conversation when there was a conversation between the president, who was being investigated. And the First Lady realized that Su Yeon came with intentions to threaten her, but was forced to change her attitude. The First Lady went back and asked the president to stop investigating Chairman Yang, knowing that he was trying to get leverage in order not to go to prison. But what Su Yeon had was the fire that the president never wanted out. Left with no choice, the First Lady and president are forced to meet Su Yeon. So, if you don't help me, the president falls. But Su Yeon said that if this is out there and she loses all benefits, and that her husband's political career is over. Su Yeon wasn't scared to say that she won't give her husband another chance. Cornered, the couple gives in. Su Yeon's conditions were that he stop investigating Chairman Yang. He has to get Su Yeon's weakness, and if this breaks, there will be no protection for himself. The First Lady wants the president to follow what Su Yeon wants, knowing that the president will go down hard. There is an offer that comes in, so they had an agreement that she needs to make her husband follow through and end the divorce, knowing that Min Cheol wants the bill passed. But you have to get through to your wife and know that he has two choices to protect both her and that bill. From the First Lady's words, Min Cheol realized he's thinking about it. Min Cheol called her, and Su Yeon said that she had already made a decision for a long time, and it's now up to him to choose between her and the act. Feeling troubled, it suddenly starts raining and memories flash back on how he and his wife shared one umbrella while they were walking. But those days are over. In addition, Min Cheol watched a video of his wife on her knees apologizing to her fans. She was creating a media war. To turn things around, the male secretary suggested that Min Cheol quickly meet with the current president and accompany him to inspect the disaster area, thereby winning over the people as soon as possible. After a brief period of consideration, Min Cheol made a decision quickly. He realized it was time to confront his wife directly. Whether it was about Chairman Yang or the special bill, he had to push it forward quickly. In addition, Min Cheol assigned the male secretary to secretly investigate a car accident. The victim was a female factory worker. Not long after, Min Cheol contacted Hyun Min, who worked under Young's son, and learned from him the identity of the person who provided the listening device to his wife. It was a convenience store manager. After being questioned by Min Cheol, the man confessed the whole story. It turned out that he used to be a police officer, but for some reason he was fired. Last year, Su Yeon approached him and asked him to get a listening device. At that time, he felt very strange because Su Yeon didn't choose the convenient and popular type of listening device, but insisted on using the old type that could be retrieved. After hearing his story, Min Cheol made a decision. He promised to pay the man a generous sum of money in exchange for helping him investigate Su Yeon, especially to clarify the transaction between Su Yeon and the current president 5 years ago. At this point, Min Cheol realized that even though they had lived together for many years, he actually didn't understand his wife at all. Min Cheol's former secretary, despite being fired, was secretly working hard to help the president. She investigated Seon-ho's past and discovered that this lawyer was also related to the victim in the factory fire. Seon-ho's actions reminded the secretary of the past. After the fire that year, to preserve her husband's political career and avoid public blame, Su Yeon quickly decided to frame Tae-hoon, a worker injured in the fire, for arson. Su Yeon understood that when an accident occurred, someone had to take the blame. Otherwise, this fire would spread directly to her husband, so she had to do it. After Tae-hoon was framed, Ms. Gmok and Ki-ju came to demand justice. They knew better than anyone else that Tae-hoon was just a scapegoat. At that time, Ki-ju caused a commotion right outside Min Cheol's hospital room. Everyone believed that Min Cheol had put all the blame on Tae-hoon. The secretary then blocked Ki-ju outside the hospital room. For Min Cheol's political future, she had to agree to Su Yeon's plan. And now, compared to the truth about the fire years ago, the secretary understood that the most important thing at this time was why Seon-ho had agreed to handle Su Yeon's divorce case. What worried the secretary even more was Min Cheol's alleged affair. Su Yeon had leaked the news, threatening to bring evidence of her husband's affair to court. The secretary didn't know what kind of evidence Su Yeon was holding, but she understood that Su Yeon suspected that Hwa-jin was the president's mistress and had clues related to her. The secretary determined that witnesses and physical evidence could be completely fabricated. The key was what Hwa-jin would say. To help the president counterattack, the secretary decided to start with Hwa-jin, and at the same time instructed another secretary of Min Cheol to closely monitor Seon-ho. Currently, the members of the power transition team are discussing the news of the president's affair. Everyone believed that there was no smoke without fire. They thought that if Su Yeon had said it, then it must be true. Now, there was another name for the confrontation between Min Cheol and Su Yeon, the love war. To help Min Cheol win this war, the secretary immediately went to Hwa-jin's house, but her roommate told her that Hwa-jin had gone to work in a place with full room and board. The secretary was extremely confused, not knowing where Hwa-jin had gone. At this time, Su Yeon gave the housekeeper a new car. The housekeeper was worried about her, but Su Yeon still smiled as usual. No matter how many difficulties were ahead, she couldn't be brought down. Not long after, Su Yeon contacted 3 congressmen and Hyun Min, who worked under Young's son. Years ago, these 3 congressmen helped her prevent the special bill from being passed. But now, Su Yeon realized Hyun Min's ambition. She bluntly declared that she would kick him out of the game and would contact one of the 3 congressmen directly from now on. In addition, under Su Yeon's pressure and lobbying, Chairman Yang was released. The investigation targeting him also ended. On the first day after he was released, Su Yeon immediately went to see him and spoke directly about Hwa-jin. She had guessed early on that Chairman Yang's calling the tailor was to subtly inform her that Hwa-jin was in his hands. But now, the chairman had hidden Hwa-jin. It was because he discovered Su Yeon was looking for Hwa Jin. A nurse in the hospital once told Chairman Yang that Hwa Jin was pregnant. Upon learning this, Su Yeon was truly shocked. Chairman Yang sarcastically said that the president really knew how to choose women because when Hwa Jin dressed up, she was indeed very beautiful. Su Yeon immediately pressed the chairman, wanting to know if the child in Hwa Jin's womb was her husband's, but the chairman deliberately hid it and refused to answer. Imagine finding out the unthinkable that your husband's having a baby with another woman. That's exactly what happened to Su Yeon. But what she discovered next was even more shocking. Yesterday, Yang Hoon dropped a bombshell. Hwa Jin was pregnant. Su Yeon was reeling, completely blindsided. Her first thought? She had to know who the father was. But Yang Hoon was playing games, refusing to tell her and pushing her to confront Hwa Jin herself. Hwa Jin was being held at Yang Hoon's mansion. She wanted to leave to escape this mess, but the guards were under strict orders she wasn't going anywhere. Desperate, Hwa Jin did something drastic. Right in front of the guards, she ripped off a dress that the chairman had given her, changing back into her own clothes. But even that wasn't enough. The guards were adamant. No way was she leaving without Yang Hoon's say-so. Then, in the middle of the struggle, Hwa Jin collapsed, unconscious. The guards panicked. Just then, Yang Hoon arrived, bringing Su Yeon with him. Su Yeon rushed to Hwa Jin's side, checked for a pulse, and made the call to get her to the hospital, fast. When Hwa Jin woke up, Su Yeon was right there, sitting in her hospital room. Su Yeon brought up the pregnancy, and that's when everything turned upside down. Hwa Jin begged Su Yeon for help, dropping to her knees in tears. It turned out that Hwa Jin's friend had been arrested for stealing a necklace. That's when Su Yeon lost it, demanding the whole story. Hwa Jin confessed that her friend was in financial trouble. Trying to help, Hwa Jin gave a necklace to another male friend of hers, telling him to sell it. But that necklace, it belonged to Su Yeon's daughter Ji-yu, who'd reported it stolen. But Hwa Jin insisted she didn't mean to steal it. It all went back to that time Su Yeon gave the necklace to her daughter. Hwa Jin, who was Su Yeon's stylist back then, witnessed the whole thing. She was consumed by envy, wanting to wear the beautiful necklace. So that night, she sneaked into Su Yeon's dressing room, found the necklace, and put it on. That's when Min Cheol, Su Yeon's husband, came home. Hwa Jin panicked and fainted. Min Cheol found her unconscious and bent down to check on her. Ji-yu saw the whole scene, leading her to believe her father and Hwa Jin were having an affair. Hwa Jin came to quickly, and not knowing how to explain her sneaking around and wearing the necklace, she just stuffed it in her pocket and planned to return it the next day. Then, when Ji-yu saw Hwa Jin searching the dressing room, it was because Hwa Jin was simply trying to return the necklace, but needed to help her friend. It was just that her friend needed help. That's when her pendant fell off in the dressing room, and Ji-yu found it. Later, Min Cheol took the pendant from his daughter, meaning to give it back to Hwa Jin. Su Yeon then flashed back to that day in the parking garage, when she witnessed Min Cheol secretly returning a pendant to Hwa Jin. However, Hwa Jin explained that the person who gave the pendant back that day was not Min Cheol but his secretary. Hearing all of this, Su Yeon realized that she'd misunderstood everything. There was nothing between Min Cheol and Hwa Jin. Still, Su Yeon wasn't ready to just forgive and forget. Hwa Jin then pleaded with her, promising that if Su Yeon helped save her friend, she would do absolutely anything Su Yeon asked of her no matter what. Those were the words Su Yeon wanted to hear. But Hwa Jin's words kept echoing in Su Yeon's mind. Hwa Jin asked Su Yeon what it was like to be a mother. Unlike Su Yeon, Hwa Jin came from a poor family and didn't have a good education, so she wasn't sure if someone like her could be a good mother. Su Yeon hesitated for a moment and replied, "You don't need special qualifications or a degree to be a mother, but once you decide to have a child, you can't doubt yourself, and you can't let your child feel insecure." But after saying that, Su Yeon herself fell into pain. She and her husband used to love each other deeply, but then one day, when she found out she was pregnant, she was as confused as Hwa Jin, afraid that she wouldn't be able to be a good mother. The real reason for Su Yeon's self-doubt? Deep-seated wounds left by her own mother. Su Yeon always believed that if her mother hadn't given birth to her, she wouldn't have faced public scorn for being pregnant out of wedlock, and she wouldn't have died such a tragic death. Back then, Min Cheol had taken her hand and gently comforted her, always looking out for her. All the things a mother does for her child, Su Yeon secretly did for him. That's why he believed she would be an amazing mother. Years ago, Su Yeon had been touched by her husband's words. But now, everything was different. Completely different from before. Remembering the past only brought her pain and sadness. These memories hardened Su Yeon's gaze. She regained her strong, former self. Still, Su Yeon wasn't completely convinced by Hwa Jin's story. She immediately asked a doctor about Hwa Jin's condition. The doctor confirmed that Hwa Jin did indeed have a hereditary condition that could cause her to faint at any time. Only after confirming this did Su Yeon feel somewhat relieved. After reaching an agreement with Hwa Jin, she sent Lawyer Kang to the police station. From now on, Lawyer Kang would be responsible for defending Hwa Jin's friend. Initially, the friend refused the lawyer's help. It wasn't until he learned that Hwa Jin had gone to great lengths to find this lawyer for him that he considered. During a phone call, Hwa Jin urged her friend to listen to the lawyer. Seon Ho also promised Hwa Jin that he would do everything he could to get Woo Young out. While talking to Woo Young, Seon Ho mentioned his past criminal record. When Woo Young was a minor, he had been sent to a reformatory for theft. Throughout that process, he had refused any legal defense. The lawyer's words brought back old memories for Woo Young. Back then, he, Hwa-jin, and another friend had stolen a motorcycle. Unexpectedly, they had an accident, injuring the other friend. To protect Hwa-jin, who had a condition that made her faint easily, Woo Young decided to take all the blame and refused any legal assistance. Now, as lawyer Kang was defending Woo Young, he happened to run into Min Cheol's former secretary, who had been fired. This secretary had originally been hired by Hwa-jin's best friend, also to help Woo Young. But before he could speak, the secretary learned that Su Yeon was meeting with Min Cheol. He immediately realized that things were getting complicated. Sure enough, the first thing Su Yeon mentioned when she met Min Cheol was Hwa-jin's pregnancy. For Su Yeon, this had become a bargaining chip with her husband. She declared that Hwa-jin would lie and say that the baby she was carrying was Min Cheol's. Once this news broke, Min Cheol would be an outcast, rejected by the entire country. In exchange for her silence, Su Yeon wanted her husband to abandon that special law and allow her to return to her position as First Lady. Faced with this, Min Cheol hesitated. That morning, his daughter had contacted him. Ji-yu earnestly talked to her father, reminding him of the warm memories of their family of three. She begged him not to divorce her mother, wanting their family to be like before. His daughter's words swayed Min Cheol. Even while sitting in the president's chair, he still had love for his family. But soon after, a former police officer who had helped him investigate called. After investigating, this person discovered that Su Yeon had met with the current president and First Lady last year. There seemed to be a secret agreement between them. Also, since then, Su Yeon had purchased equipment from the former police officer to eavesdrop on her husband. He recalled his wife's recent statement on television. Min Cheol began to suspect. Perhaps his wife's eavesdropping wasn't to guard against him, but to listen in on the president and his wife, as they were approaching him, actually to protect him. The former police officer said that the secret from years ago was recorded by the current president's secretary in a diary. Min Cheol asked him to buy that diary. He believed that the truth he was looking for was in there. Meanwhile, Min Cheol's fired secretary returned home, initially wanting nothing more than to be a good mom and take care of her son. But that night, Hyun Gyo came to see her. Hyun Gyo, a ruthless and ambitious player, was humiliated by Su Yeon and still seethed with resentment. He wanted to team up with the secretary to take down Su Yeon, and they quickly made a deal. Hyun Gyo mentioned how he recently proposed a bipartisan partnership to Min Cheol. This plan would speed up the passing of that special law. But Min Cheol hesitated. Knowing his attitude, the secretary was annoyed and finally agreed to work with Hyun Gyo. Hyun Gyo revealed that Su Yeon possessed a notebook containing all the dirty secrets of the opposition party. Hearing this, the secretary became determined, vowing to get that notebook and regain the upper hand. To keep her position as First Lady, she didn't hesitate to falsely accuse her husband, the president, of deliberately spreading rumors of his affair to deceive the public. Yesterday, after learning that Su Yeon held a secret notebook, the secretary resolved to do everything possible to get it. Later, the secretary went to the transition office to meet Min Cheol. In front of Min Cheol, she spoke harshly, insisting that Su Yeon was trying to block the law, and now she had a way to get the law passed, but she needed Min Cheol not to interfere or waver in promoting the law. She reminded Min Cheol that the person who was about to become president must remember the original ideal and not use politics as an excuse. Min Cheol explained his difficult situation, saying that his wife was using Hwa-jin to threaten him. Min Cheol asserted that he had never wanted to back down because of the complexities of politics, but now he needed more time from the secretary. However, the secretary refused to budge. Compared to Min Cheol, she was even more resolute. The conversation ended, and the secretary caused a stir right in front of the transition office staff, vowing that she would not let this matter rest. The secretary publicly put pressure on Min Cheol, causing chaos among the senior leaders of the party. Tomorrow was the day for the vote to pass the law. At this moment, there must be no internal conflicts. To prevent the secretary from losing control and revealing internal secrets, senior leaders contacted her, speaking in a very flattering manner. The secretary took the opportunity to speak out, hoping that the inside would unite as one and not waver at this crucial moment. Not stopping there, the secretary also contacted a reporter, revealing information about the collaboration between Su Yeon and Hwa-jin. The reporter, having obtained an exclusive tip, was very excited and immediately went to the police station to investigate the case. Despite their agreement, Su Yeon and Hwa-jin still didn't trust each other. Hwa-jin demanded that Su Yeon find a way to save Woo Young first. Only after that was done would she fulfill her promise. It turned out that Woo Young was the father of Hwa-jin's baby. To ensure a stable future for her child, Hwa-jin had to ensure Woo Young's safety. Su Yeon didn't trust Hwa-jin either, fearing that if Woo Young was released, she would go back on her promise. So, Su Yeon contacted Seon Ho, wanting to create a legally binding document with a lawyer's witness. With this agreement, neither Su Yeon nor Hwa-jin would be able to take back their words. However, Seon Ho knew very well that this document was actually completely worthless. Frankly speaking, Su Yeon was deceiving Hwa-jin. Seon-ho clearly understood that just a petition could help Woo Young be released. But Su Yeon had no intention of doing so. For Su Yeon, Hwa Jin was a pawn to threaten her husband. She wanted to use Hwa Jin to force her husband to stop the divorce. As for whether Woo Young was released or continued to be imprisoned, she didn't care at all. Su Yeon even instructed Seon-ho that until the divorce was cancelled, he should absolutely not submit a petition and should not provide any real defense for Woo Young. However, Seon-ho had his own calculations because he wanted revenge. Yesterday, Seon-ho decided to work with the former secretary of the president. The secretary revealed to him that the reason she was pushing the law so hard was not to help the president, but to clear her husband's name. He had been wrongly accused in a factory fire years ago. She wanted to use this law to punish the real culprit. The secretary also warned Seon-ho never to try to take advantage of the first lady. Su Yeon was more cunning than Seon-ho thought. If he really wanted revenge for his family, what he should do was not to be around Su Yeon, but to join hands with her to promote the law. Therefore, she mentioned the secret notebook. As long as they found the notebook that Su Yeon kept, they could use the secrets in it to threaten the opposition party, forcing them to vote in favor of the law. Seon-ho was convinced. He secretly went to the hospital to meet Hwa Jin, telling her that Su Yeon had deceived her, confessing that the agreement was completely invalid. Hwa Jin also revealed to Seon-ho that the night she stole the necklace, she had seen a safe in the dressing room and discovered a button under the cabinet. Seon-ho believed that the notebook must be hidden in that safe. Without any hesitation, he decided to break in that night to take the notebook out. After leaving Su Yeon's place, he tried to distract her by pretending to be hungry, and Su Yeon told the housekeeper to prepare dinner for him. Taking advantage of the housekeeper's inattention, Seon-ho sneaked into the dressing room, found the button under the cabinet, pressed it, and discovered the safe hidden in the wall. The safe was password protected. Hwa Jin had told Seon-ho in advance that Su Yeon often used her daughter's birthday as a password. Lawyer Kang tried entering Ji-Yu's birthday, and sure enough, the safe was opened successfully. In addition to the notebook, there were many recordings of eavesdropping on political opponents inside. Seon-ho took everything out of the safe, but at the door, he accidentally ran into Ji-Yu, who was returning home. Fortunately, Seon-ho was very clever. With a few skillful words, he dispelled Ji-Yu's suspicions. After stealing the notebook and recordings, he immediately contacted the secretary. She immediately suggested a meeting, but Seon-ho hesitated, unsure whether to trust her. He feared that after getting the notebook, the secretary would use it for her own political purposes. Although the secretary tried her best to reassure him, after careful consideration, Seon-ho decided to betray her and chose to meet Min Cheol. This decision was due to the influence of his old friend, Ki-ju, Min Cheol's colleague in the past. After the factory fire that year, Ki-ju had resented Min a lot, but in the end, he chose to trust the friend who had stood side by side with him, and also reminded Min Cheol. Giving the notebook and recordings to Min Cheol was hoping that he could vigorously promote the law instead of hesitating as before, procrastinating without making a decision. Recalling the smiles of the workers in the past, Min Cheol's eyes gradually became firm. When the secretary heard the news, she begged Min Cheol to hand over the notebook to her, wanting to negotiate with the opposition party herself. Min Cheol knew her methods very well. If these things fell into the secretary's hands, she would not hesitate to use any means to threaten the opposition. But that was not what Min Cheol wanted. He wanted to promote the law, but only wanted to do it fairly. The secretary continued to persuade him, recounting her husband's story from that year. He once dreamed of building a grand hotel on that land, but on the day the project was completed, his workers' compensation claim was denied, and he was even investigated for professional misconduct. That was the reason she was pushing this law so hard. But no matter what she said, Min Cheol had no intention of giving those things to her. Precisely because he was grateful to the secretary, he couldn't let her continue to do bad things for him, let alone push her down the wrong path. That night, holding the notebook and recordings in his hands, Min Cheol heard both his wife's voice and his friend's voices in his head. Finally, Min Cheol made his own choice. Ki-ju's words last night helped him make up his mind. He vowed that this time he would definitely act. The next day was the day of the National Assembly meeting. The congressmen would vote to pass the law today. Min Cheol took the notebook and important evidence to the National Assembly. Unexpectedly, he encountered a major traffic jam on the way. He got out of the car to check, and saw a rough cloth glove lying on the road. The moment he saw that glove, Min Cheol remembered his old worker friend, who had his hand caught in the machine. To seek justice for the workers, he knew he had to get to the National Assembly in time. In reality, this traffic jam was deliberately arranged by Yang Hoon to prevent the passage of the law. He ordered his subordinates to cause the traffic jam and to keep a close watch on Min Cheol. But unexpectedly, Min Cheol disguised himself as a traffic police officer, rode their motorcycle, and charged straight to the National Assembly building. Before the vote, he secretly met and negotiated with the opposition. Most of the members of this faction had no intention of voting in favor of the law. Min Cheol then dumped the entire notebook and recordings on the floor, but he did not intend to use it to threaten them, but chose to speak. He spoke the most sincere words, striking straight at the hearts of those facing him. He hoped that the members of the opposition would make a choice based on their own conscience. When speaking, Min Cheol tried to hold back tears to express his beliefs. For more than 20 years, he had gone from an unknown candidate to the position he holds today, all just to find out the truth about the factory fire of the past and bring justice to the wronged workers. As Min Cheol finished speaking, most of the congressmen changed their attitudes and decided to vote in favor of the bill. Su Yeon, receiving the news, became anxious. She began contacting the congressmen, trying to stop them from voting in favor by falsely claiming she had a copy of the notebook. However, the congressmen were no longer intimidated. If the secrets in the notebook were made public, they would no longer be secrets and they would no longer be afraid. More importantly, the congressmen had been persuaded by Min Cheol. In the current situation, if any individual intended to vote against it, they would have to bear serious consequences. Thanks to Min Cheol's efforts, the special bill that he had cherished for over 20 years was finally passed with an overwhelming majority. Based on this bill, the truth about the factory fire from many years ago would finally be brought to light. That day, everyone in the transition office celebrated with Min Cheol. At this moment, Min Cheol still did not realize that the real challenges and threats were about to come. To avenge his parents, who had passed away in a factory accident, Lawyer Kang had partnered with Hwa Jin. On Lawyer Kang's advice, Hwa Jin signed a petition to have her boyfriend released. At the same time, she intended to participate in a scheduled interview to expose Su Yeon's lies that she was the president's mistress. Lawyer Kang promised that as soon as the interview ended, Hwa Jin's boyfriend would be released. In addition, Lawyer Kang met with the journalist and gave him an agreement, which clearly stated what Hwa Jin would reveal about Su Yeon in the interview. From now on, Lawyer Kang began to reject Su Yeon's calls, which meant that he had completely sided with the opposition against her. After meeting the journalist, Lawyer Kang went to the police station and gave the police the petition that Hwa Jin had signed, along with other documents. These things were enough to prove that Hwa Jin's boyfriend had not committed theft. The day the documents were submitted was also the day the special bill was passed. Lawyer Kang was overjoyed. He chose to become a lawyer precisely because he wanted this bill to pass, to avenge his parents. And today, Hwa Jin went to the television station to prepare for the interview as scheduled with Lawyer Kang. But before the interview began, Lawyer Kang suddenly came to the dressing room and said that he had deceived Hwa Jin. In fact, just having that petition was enough to release Hwa Jin's boyfriend without having to participate in the show. Lawyer Kang confessed that he had taken advantage of Hwa Jin. Persuading her to participate in the program was actually for his own revenge, wanting to ruin Su Yeon's reputation. Because he hated Su Yeon so much. After the factory fire that year, Su Yeon tried to cover up the truth, blaming innocent people, causing him to misunderstand them for a long time. However, when Hwa Jin heard Lawyer Kang say that, she had no intention of giving up participating in the program because she also hid a secret in her heart. As Hwa Jin went live on television, Min Cheol returned home to confront his wife. Su Yeon demanded to know when her husband had sided with Lawyer Kang and when he had become a thief who stole from his own wife. Min Cheol agreed to answer all of his wife's questions, but in return, he wanted his wife to answer one question: why was she so vehemently opposed to the passage of the special bill? Su Yeon didn't explain, only saying that things were not as her husband thought. While they were talking, their daughter Ji-yu ran in, just in time to see Hwa Jin appearing on TV. Seeing Hwa Jin on the air, Su Yeon panicked. Despite her agreement with Hwa Jin, she had never told Hwa Jin to contact the media. When the interview began, Hwa Jin seemed frozen. The producer thought that the show would be a failure. Fortunately, thanks to the skillful guidance of the journalist, Hwa Jin gradually calmed down and finally revealed that she was the daughter of President-elect Min Cheol. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone, including the journalist, was shocked. Still surprised, the journalist went on to ask Hwa Jin when she had known about this. Hwa Jin truthfully recounted the story. It was on the day of the presidential election. A friend who had worked with Min Cheol in the past, Sun Jeong, had died in a car accident. Hwa Jin attended the funeral. Min Cheol noticed the yellow scarf that Hwa Jin was wearing. It belonged to Sun Jeong, and she was Min Cheol's girlfriend before he met Su Yeon. Perhaps at that time, Min Cheol had guessed the relationship between Hwa Jin and himself. So at the funeral, he asked Hwa Jin to stay in the mourning hall for 3 days on behalf of the chief mourner. On the television program at this time, Hwa Jin said that she had not had time to tell the president that she was his daughter. Immediately after, Hwa Jin pointed the finger at Su Yeon, exposing Su Yeon's plan to spread rumors that she was the president's mistress. The journalist questioned Hwa Jin. Why, when Su Yeon misunderstood that she was the president's mistress, did she not explain, but now publicly announce her identity in such a sensational way? Hwa Jin said that she did this to catch the person who caused the accident that killed her mother. She believed that when her identity was revealed, there would definitely be witnesses to her mother's accident, and from there she could follow the clues to find out the truth. Hwa Jin's interview caused chaos in the Su Yeon family. Ji-yu questioned her parents about what exactly was going on. Faced with her daughter's question, both Su Yeon and Min Cheol were unable to answer. Ji-yu angrily went to her room. At this time, she just felt that her parents were terrible. Su Yeon asked her husband when he had known about this secret. Min Cheol replied that he had only suspected it, but not at the funeral, but on the night that Hwajin stole things in the dressing room. That day, he noticed that Hwajin was wearing a pendant in the shape of a ring and told her to take it off. After carefully examining the inscription inside the ring, he was certain that it was the engagement ring that he had given to his girlfriend years ago. Initially, Min Cheol was only half convinced, but then he discovered that Hwajin occasionally fainted, a symptom that was exactly the same as Sun Jong's. And according to the doctor, this was a hereditary symptom. Hearing her husband's explanation, Su Yeon became extremely agitated. She could not accept the fact that Hwajin was her husband's daughter. On the contrary, Min Cheol questioned his wife. He said that years ago, when Sun Jong demanded to break up, he had suspected that Su Yeon had forced his girlfriend to leave. Moreover, in a situation knowing that Sun Jong was pregnant, faced with her husband's question, Su Yeon evaded answering, only asking her husband to get a DNA test. After the affair of having a secret daughter was exposed, Min Cheol's reputation plummeted. People began to gather to protest, claiming that Min Cheol was shameless in his private life and demanding that he resign immediately. Faced with protesters and interviews from journalists, Min Cheol tried his best to remain calm. He promised that if Hwajin agreed, he was willing to take a DNA test. But at the same time, Min Cheol had no intention of giving up his position as president because of this. He emphasized that he also had a responsibility to the country and its people, and stated that the urgent task at this time was to protect the special bill that had just been passed. However, Min Cheol's passionate speech did not have the desired effect. On the contrary, the public believed that he was deliberately covering up the scandal of his secret daughter. Originally, the passage of the special bill had made Yang Hoon extremely angry. For him, this meant that the deals and secrets between him and Su Yeon were about to be exposed. But now, the scandal of the president's secret daughter had emerged, causing Yang Hoon to sensitively recognize a turning point in the situation. Su Yeon went to see Yang Hoon. He smugly said that 2 months ago, on the day that both Ji-yu and Hwajin were taken to the hospital, he had known the secret about this secret daughter. At that time, both girls were tested and found to have the same rare blood type. It was this rare percentage that made him start to suspect the family relationship between Ji-yu and Hwajin. And now, Yang Hoon intended to take advantage of this point to attack Min Cheol. As long as this topic continued to be pushed, the congressmen who were surrounding Min Cheol would collectively betray him. Min Cheol went to the tower to hold the ashes of his former girlfriend, to commemorate her. In fact, the ring on the pendant was made by his own hands. Before meeting Su Yeon, he had officially proposed to Sun Jong. While Min Cheol was reminiscing, the police officer who helped him investigate Sun Jong's accident arrived. The police officer brought the results of the investigation, showing that at the time of the accident, a car had stopped at the scene. Although he could not see the license plate clearly, Min Cheol recognized that it was his wife's car, Su Yeon's. Min Cheol was once again shocked and began to suspect that the perpetrator of the accident was Su Yeon. After that, Su Yeon met with Hwajin. After some conversation, Hwajin agreed to take a DNA test. Su Yeon then warned her that even if the results showed that she and the president were indeed father and daughter, Hwajin shouldn't expect to receive anything, whether it be money or the status of a family member. After saying this, Su Yeon gave the DNA test consent form to Hwajin and told her to sign it. But at this moment, Hwajin received a phone call from Yang Hoon. He reminded Hwajin not to take the DNA test and said that the perpetrator of the accident that killed Hwajin's mother was Su Yeon. Hwajin met Yang Hoon again. Hwajin's thinking was very simple. She thought that she could rely on the crime of causing an accident and fleeing the scene to send Su Yeon to prison. But Yang Hoon told her that the president had the right to pardon. Even if Su Yeon was arrested for causing an accident, she would be released with just a word from Min Cheol. But Hwajin was the only one who could prevent this from happening. If the outside world knew that Min Cheol had abandoned Hwajin's mother, knew what Su Yeon had done to her mother, then even if Min Cheol wanted to save her, he would be unable to do so. In exchange for this advice, Yang Hoon instructed Hwajin not to rush to take the DNA test, otherwise the situation would only benefit Su Yeon. Yang Hoon firmly stated that he was doing this entirely for Hwajin's own good and hoped that she would appear on television again to defeat Su Yeon completely. But in reality, Yang Hoon had secretly met with many congressmen, giving each of them a bottle of wine. Just by scanning the QR code on the bottle, 100 million won would be transferred to their account. Yang Hoon used this method to bribe the congressmen, asking them to come forward to investigate the president's secret daughter case, wanting to take this opportunity to push Min Cheol into the spotlight. Even though there was only 1 month left until Min Cheol's inauguration, Yang Hoon still wanted to overthrow him. The media came to Hwajin again, trying to persuade her to participate in the program again. Hwajin did not agree. She frankly said that she did not come to seek revenge and had never pointed the finger at Su Yeon. The last time she chose to participate in the program was only to catch the perpetrator of the accident. Even if that person was not Su Yeon, it would not matter. But at this time, the producer of the media said to Hwajin that, in the accident of her mother, in addition to Su Yeon, perhaps the president was also involved. It was possible that the president had pretended not to know about his wife's crimes, or that the president and his wife were accomplices. It should be known that the time when Hwa Jin's mother died in the car accident coincided with the election week. For Min Cheol, eliminating his ex was no different than silencing someone, so that no one in the world would know about the scandal of the secret daughter again. The producer wanted to use this to persuade Hwa Jin to participate in the program, believing that as long as they dug deeper, they would surely discover even more secrets from the president and his wife. However, in reality, this producer was also colluding with Yang Hoon. On the phone, the producer had promised Yang Hoon that, in the upcoming program, he would guide Hwa Jin to say things that were unfavorable to the president and his wife. In return, he hoped that the chairman would sponsor the television station's upcoming new program. Because of the accident of Hwa Jin's mother, Su Yeon was invited by the police to investigate. The police presented evidence confirming that the tire tracks of Su Yeon's car completely matched the traces at the scene of the accident. And the car that caused the accident, captured by a roadside dashcam at the time, was suspected to be Su Yeon's car. Faced with the police's questions, Su Yeon finally broke her silence and requested to see a lawyer. The person that Su Yeon turned to was Lawyer Kang. In the presence of the lawyer, Su Yeon still did not answer any of the police's questions. Lawyer Kang suggested that the police temporarily excuse themselves so that he and Su Yeon could talk privately. After the police left, Lawyer Kang tried to persuade Su Yeon to cooperate with the investigation. Currently, Su Yeon was only answering in the capacity of a witness. If the situation worsened, Su Yeon could become a suspect. Finally, Su Yeon spoke. She said that she might not pursue the fact that Lawyer Kang had deceived her and stolen the notebook, but in return, she needed Lawyer Kang to help her with one thing. The thing that Su Yeon mentioned was to require Lawyer Kang to prevent the housekeeper from confessing at all costs. It turned out that the person who caused the accident that year was the housekeeper. Only now did Lawyer Kang realize that the reason Su Yeon was silent was to protect and even take the blame for the housekeeper. Su Yeon even fired Lawyer Kang, asking him to defend the housekeeper. Therefore, at this time, Lawyer Kang went to Su Yeon's house and tried his best to stop the housekeeper who was preparing to go out. The housekeeper had tears in her eyes. She had been a housekeeper for Su Yeon for more than 40 years. To her, Su Yeon was closer than her own daughter. Therefore, no matter what, she could not bear to watch Su Yeon take the blame for her. Lawyer Kang was momentarily moved, persuaded by the housekeeper, and finally agreed to take her to the police station to visit Su Yeon. Unexpectedly, on the way, a car accident suddenly occurred. The car of Lawyer Kang and the housekeeper was overturned. The person who caused this accident was Yang Hoon. He had long bribed Su Yeon's driver. This driver had reported everything, from Su Yeon meeting Hwa Jin in detail to the chairman. After helping Yang Hoon, the driver also received a bottle of wine, which, after scanning the code, would automatically receive 100 million won. Min Cheol went to see his old friend and confided his true thoughts with him. Although on the road he had traveled, he had worked hard to promote the special bill, but gradually in the process, he had become a mean person, only knowing how to calculate and consider politics, becoming the kind of person that he hated the most at the beginning. Min Cheol mentioned his former girlfriend Sun Jong. He would always remember her smile, remember the picture she took for him and his friends. Hearing this, Kiju immediately handed Min Cheol another photo, which recorded the past many years ago, when Min Cheol and Sun Jong campaigned together. Looking at the old photo, both familiar and strange, Min Cheol's tears kept falling. After that, Min Cheol went to the law office to meet Lawyer Kwon, inviting him to take the position of chairman of the Special Investigation Committee. The task this time was to investigate the factory fire of the past. Many years ago, the person who handled the case for the factory was this Lawyer Kwon. Because he helped the workers fight against the powerful corporation, Lawyer Kwon almost lost his license to practice. And now, Min Cheol hoped that Lawyer Kwon could once again take up the sword to fight the evil dragon. Lawyer Kwon reminded Min Cheol that if the scope of the investigation was expanded, Min Cheol's wife might also be implicated. In that case, would Min Cheol still insist on letting him take this position? The issue related to the safety of his wife, and in a moment, Min Cheol hesitated. Very quickly after that, his subordinates reported that Su Yeon was being investigated for causing an accident and fleeing the scene. Min Cheol's heart was burning with anxiety, and he immediately wanted to go to the police station to visit his wife. His subordinates reminded Min Cheol that the police station was surrounded by reporters like a sieve. Now, if Min Cheol went there, not only would he not be able to help, but on the contrary, he would fall into the public's opinion. However, even knowing the advantages and disadvantages, Min Cheol still insisted on going to the police station. For no other reason, only because that person was the wife who had lived with him for more than 20 years. In another development, the beautiful female secretary who had resigned was at home with her son. That night, the female secretary's face looked unusual, as if she were going somewhere very far away. She was busy ironing clothes for her son, looking at the height marks that her son had left on the wall over the years, recalling the past of living with her husband and son, as if she had made an unusual decision in her heart. And on this side, just as the subordinates had said, outside the police station at this time, the reporters were waiting to interview. At this important moment, Min Cheol risked everything to go to the police station. Faced with the reporter's questioning, Min Cheol asked the media not to make baseless speculations, and emphasized that this time he did not come to put pressure on the police or imply the direction of the investigation, but simply wanted to be with his wife as much as possible. The reporter asked again, if the truth proved that Su Yeon was related to the accident, would the president be willing to resign? Min Cheol faced it in silence. Unexpectedly, at this time, the beautiful female secretary appeared. The female secretary declared that the accident was not related to the president and his wife because she was the real perpetrator. As soon as she finished her confession to the media, the secretary was taken into custody by the police. At the police station, she revealed the whole story of the accident. It was 1 week before the election. At that time, she happened to hear that Min Cheol was looking for his ex-girlfriend. The secretary knew very well that any small action could ruin the entire election. To help Min Cheol win, the secretary decided to investigate his ex-girlfriend. So, she imitated Su Yeon's method and eavesdropped on Min Cheol's phone calls. On the day of the accident, the secretary's car was following right behind Min Cheol's car. But that day, the fog was very thick, and the secretary lost track of Min Cheol for a moment and went into the wrong lane. As a result, she accidentally crashed into Min Cheol's ex-girlfriend, Sun Jong. Even more seriously, when she hurriedly got out of the car to check, she found that Sun Jong had died on the spot. The secretary panicked and fled the scene. In the meantime, she received a call from Su Yeon, but because she was too panicked, she only said a few words and quickly hung up. At that time, it was the final stage of the election, and the secretary knew that if the fact that she caused the accident was exposed, and the public knew that the deceased was Min Cheol's ex-girlfriend, then Min Cheol would definitely lose the election. With no other choice, the secretary had to hide the truth, planning to wait until Min Cheol became president before turning herself in. Now, knowing everything, Min Cheol personally went to the police station to visit the secretary, bringing her a warm glass of water. Only now did he realize that the secretary knew everything about him, while he rarely cared about her. Min Cheol did not blame the secretary. He thought that she did this for his political future. However, the secretary confessed that she did not do this for Min Cheol, but for herself, for her husband who had died in the factory accident. Whether it was during the election campaign or after he was elected, Min Cheol wholeheartedly promoted a special bill, and even for it, he was planning to divorce his wife. And this bill was exactly what the secretary needed. To help Min Cheol pass that bill, the secretary had to cover up her actions in causing the accident. Because she always remembered what her husband had said before he died, he said that he hoped that their son could live in a different world in the future, a world where the rights of ordinary people were respected. It was precisely to fulfill the promise to her husband that the secretary hid the truth about the accident from everyone. In addition to confessing to the police and Min Cheol, the secretary also left a letter for her son, telling him about her actions in causing the accident. During this time, the reason why the secretary showed such attachment, reluctant to leave her son, was that she had decided to turn herself in. In another development, Su Yeon and her daughter were waiting outside the hospital's operating room. The person who was being operated on inside was the housekeeper who had been in a car accident last night. The doctor informed Su Yeon that the surgery had gone very smoothly. But the housekeeper was still in a coma, and at the moment they could only continue to monitor her. Su Yeon was in great pain, and in her heart she had long regarded her as her mother. Min Cheol came to the hospital room to apologize to his wife. About the accident of his ex-girlfriend, he should not have suspected his wife. What Min Cheol couldn't forgive himself for even more was that he not only suspected his wife but also tried to seek political balance from this accident, weighing the pros and cons of the benefits. However, Su Yeon said in a firm voice that, as a president, it was his duty to weigh and calculate. But what surprised Su Yeon was that her husband turned around and questioned her relationship with Young Hoon, questioning the truth about the factory fire of the past. Min Cheol tried to convince his wife that they were husband and wife, and no matter what Su Yeon had done, she could be honest with him. But Su Yeon used the excuse that the housekeeper was in a coma to evade the question, emphasizing that this should not be mentioned at this time. Outside, protesters were demonstrating. Regarding Min Cheol having a secret daughter, a section of the people had developed animosity, demanding that Min Cheol explain and resign. Min Cheol directly faced the people but did not explain about his secret daughter. Instead, he mentioned the special bill, talking about the factory fire of that year, and emphasized that he would definitely investigate and clarify the truth. If the results showed that the fire was related to his wife, he would immediately resign as president-elect. Min Cheol had determined a military order, and Su Yeon had also taken her own actions. Su Yeon went to see Yang Hoon. Yang Hoon was in the office destroying all the evidence that was unfavorable to him. Su Yeon went straight to the point. She was sure that the housekeeper's car accident was orchestrated by Yang Hoon. She predicted that the chairman did this because he was wary of her, wanting to use the housekeeper's accident to cover up the news about the special bill. Yang Hoon admitted, but pointed the finger at Su Yeon, claiming that it was because Su Yeon did not listen to him, insisting on having Hwa Jin take a paternity test, that he had to resort to this trick. However, Yang Hoon did not expect that Su Yeon would be much more difficult to deal with than he thought. Su Yeon took out a pen recorder from her bag, which recorded the secret that Yang Hoon was most afraid of being exposed. the truth about the factory fire of that year. In fact, the fire was planned by Yang Hoon. For the sake of her husband's interests in the election, Su Yeon had agreed with the chairman, becoming the person who implemented the plan. But she did not expect that everything would turn into a terrible fire, causing casualties. Now, Su Yeon used the recording in her hand to threaten Yang Hoon, demanding that he remain silent. Otherwise, even if she had to face the risk of everyone being ruined, she would make this recording public. Faced with the threat, Yang Hoon's attitude finally softened, and he even knelt down in front of Su Yeon to beg, wanting to use money to buy back the recording. But Su Yeon did not give him any chance, declaring that if the housekeeper could not wake up, the chairman would have to pay the price for this. What Yang Hoon didn't know was that he had always been played by Su Yeon in her palm. The chairman's secretary had long been bought by Su Yeon. A few days ago, the chairman had met with several congressmen, using wine worth tens of millions to bribe them. This was immediately reported to Su Yeon by the secretary. And now, thanks to these photos providing evidence of bribery, Su Yeon turned to the prosecutors. The prosecution immediately conducted searches and seized assets at the chairman's company. Su Yeon turned to contact the congressman who had been dealing with Yang Hoon. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter, and to sever ties with the chairman, the congressman immediately agreed that from now on, they would not interfere with the special bill. However, the danger aimed at Su Yeon was also gradually approaching. Min Cheol met with the First Lady of the incumbent president. First Lady Park knew that Min Cheol was looking for the diary of the president's secretary, wanting to find out the truth about the factory fire from it. She once again reminded Min Cheol that he couldn't have it both ways. Min Cheol couldn't both keep the special bill and protect his wife. Now that Min Cheol had spared no effort in using his position to ensure the investigation of the truth, First Lady Park had nothing to worry about anymore, and she decided to tell Min Cheol the whole truth. 15 years ago, the incumbent president was still a congressman, and Su Yeon's father was running for president. For the sake of each other's political future, the two decided to cooperate, intending to cover up the truth about the factory fire, framing the worker named Tae-hoon as the arsonist, and falsely accusing Min Cheol as the mastermind behind the incident. After learning about this, Su Yeon ran to beg her father, hoping that he would spare Min Cheol. At that time, Min Cheol was at a crucial stage of the election for congressman. Su Yeon proposed that she would cooperate with her father to put all the blame on Tae-hoon and would also help stabilize the situation, as long as her father agreed to remove her husband's name from the list of investigations. For the sake of their father-daughter relationship, her father agreed. The subsequent developments were completely under Su Yeon's control. Tae-hoon was falsely accused of being the arsonist, and Min Cheol became the victim. Su Yeon then met with First Lady Park, who was still the wife of a congressman at the time, promising that she would help her husband climb into the presidential seat. The way to do this was to personally bring down her half-brother and her own father, and the person who coordinated with her to carry out this plan was Yang Hoon. For her own benefit, First Lady Park had agreed with Su Yeon and the chairman at the time. At the same time, the First Lady also saw through that the labor disputes in the factory and the fire were all orchestrated by Su Yeon and the chairman. The purpose was to help Min Cheol win the election for congressman. Although the fact that Min Cheol was injured at that time was outside Su Yeon's plan. Hearing the truth of the past in person, Min Cheol could not accept it for a moment. But when he recalled many details on the day of the fire, Min Cheol couldn't help but believe it. At that time, there was a labor dispute, and Min Cheol went to negotiate with the workers. During this time, his wife Su Yeon used the excuse of opening the door, deliberately letting the thugs outside pour in, thereby causing the fire that day. After the housekeeper's accident, Su Yeon didn't want to hide anything anymore and confessed the whole truth about the incident at the factory in the past to Lawyer Kang. She had known for a long time that Lawyer Kang approached her to seek revenge, and she had taken advantage of his psychology. Now, Su Yeon apologized to Lawyer Kang for the things in the past. Hearing Su Yeon's words of regret, the hatred in Lawyer Kang's heart was finally relieved. At this time, Min Cheol entered the hospital room and interrogated his wife about the events of the past. Su Yeon finally admitted that everything was as Min Cheol had investigated. The factory fire was a trap set up by her and Yang Hoon for the purpose of making Min Cheol president. Min Cheol couldn't help but shed tears. It turned out that the fact that he could stand at the pinnacle of power was all thanks to the sacrifice of the lives of the workers. Su Yeon lied again, saying that she had never loved her husband, and from beginning to end, all she needed was someone who could become president, who could turn her into the First Lady. Hearing this, Min Cheol was in pain and disappointment, leaving his bodyguards behind and driving alone to the house of the worker's grandmother at the factory. He had decided to personally open a special committee meeting in the next few days to expose the truth about the fire. On the other hand, Ji-yu was meeting Hwa-jin, her half-sister, hoping that the two could talk frankly. However, Hwa-jin showed an arrogant and unpleasant attitude towards Ji-yu's princess style. In Hwa-jin's eyes, Ji-yu was always a spoiled child who didn't know what she had. The two ended their conversation unhappily. After leaving, Ji-yu ran into the group of schoolmates who often bullied her again. To avoid being harassed, Ji-yu fled to a stairwell and was suddenly kidnapped. Soon after, Su Yeon received news that her daughter had been kidnapped. The kidnappers demanded that she bring the pen recorder containing evidence against Yang Hoon. Su Yeon immediately guessed that the mastermind was Yang Hoon. After confirming her daughter's voice over the phone, Su Yeon agreed to do as she was asked, but made a condition not to harm Ji-yu. The kidnapping location was inside the factory where the accident had happened in the past. After arriving, Su Yeon met Ji-yu. As she predicted, Yang Hoon also appeared. To save her daughter, Su Yeon had to hand over the pen recorder. Having obtained the pen, Yang Hoon decisively destroyed it, but after doing so, he had no intention of letting Su Yeon and her daughter go. He knew very well that Su Yeon was the most important witness to his crimes. To avoid living in fear, he had to eliminate Su Yeon. To protect her daughter, Su Yeon lowered herself and begged Yang Hoon. But he only smiled coldly, then threw toxic gas into the fire and locked the door. He would not let Su Yeon control him. After Yang Hoon left, Su Yeon tried her best to escape and finally opened the door. When the two were about to run away, a cry for help came from inside. Fortunately, Min Cheol, who was nearby visiting the grandmother at that time, saw the cars going in and out of the abandoned factory. Realizing that something was wrong, he rushed to the scene. Discovering the gas spreading and his daughter having just escaped, Min Cheol learned from Ji-yu that she was okay. Her mother had told her to escape first while she went back to save someone. Su Yeon returned deep inside the factory, and unexpectedly, the person calling for help was Hwa Jin. It turned out that Yang Hoon intended to shift all responsibility for the deaths of Su Yeon and her daughter onto Hwa Jin, staging a play turning Hwa Jin into a murderer to avenge his mother. Fortunately, Su Yeon arrived in time, and Hwa Jin was still breathing. Su Yeon helped Hwa Jin out. Right at this moment, a fire broke out from the electrical box, putting Su Yeon in a precarious situation. At the critical moment, Min Cheol appeared, prying open the door to save his wife and Hwa Jin. However, the ceiling behind them was about to collapse. In the moment of life and death, Min Cheol pushed his wife and Hwa Jin out, while the falling rocks crushed him. Unable to move, on the brink of life and death, Min Cheol spoke his last words to his wife. He did not blame her for the schemes and cover-ups because at this point, he understood that Su Yeon did this. After all, she loved him deeply, to help him realize his ambition to change the world. The factory building was about to collapse, so Min Cheol urged his wife to take Hwa Jin and leave. Su Yeon nearly collapsed. She couldn't bear to watch her husband stay behind alone. But Min Cheol kept urging her. Compared to his own safety, he cared more about his wife and children. Seeing the building about to collapse, with no other choice, Su Yeon had to help Hwa Jin out, promising to quickly come back to save her husband. Watching his wife's back as she left, Min Cheol remembered the worker who had died in the accident. That year, when he worked hard to campaign, among the workers, only one worker sympathized and encouraged him, and it was that worker who was the first to look at their family photo. Su Yeon brought Hwa Jin out safely. At the same time, the building behind them collapsed. Thinking of her husband, whose fate was unknown, Su Yeon couldn't help but burst into tears. After escaping, Su Yeon dreamed a dream, seeing her husband return home safely, seeing everything seemingly as it used to be. In the hospital bed, Su Yeon was immersed in a beautiful dream and shed tears. If all the conspiracies and calculations of interests had never happened, perhaps she would not have lost the person she loved deeply. Su Yeon woke up on the same day, and the housekeeper also woke up. Su Yeon hurriedly asked the housekeeper about her husband's whereabouts, but the answer she received was disappointing. The rescue team had not yet found Min Cheol. However, one fortunate thing was that after this kidnapping was exposed, Yang Hoon was arrested. The plan to cause the housekeeper's car accident was also exposed. The housekeeper apologized to Hwa Jin. It turned out that on that day, the first person to drive into Hwa Jin's mother was not the secretary, but her. That day, Hwa Jin's mother wanted to see her daughter one last time, but was recognized by her, so she chased after her and unfortunately caused the accident. Now, facing the housekeeper's apology and regret, Hwa Jin was both sad and silent. Min Cheol's whereabouts were still unknown. The secretary contacted her former colleagues at the office, instructing everyone to continue their daily work. She believed that Min Cheol was definitely still alive. 3 days later, Su Yeon, on behalf of her husband, organized a meeting of the special committee. At the meeting, she presented the truth about the factory incident 15 years ago, exonerating the workers who were falsely accused and promising to accept punishment. At the same time, Su Yeon also exposed the connection of the incumbent president and some congressmen with the accident of the past, vowing to hold all parties involved accountable. At this important moment, Su Yeon reiterated the saying that her husband always believed in. If you want to change the world, you must first change yourself. Saving one person is saving the whole world. Now, after experiencing a near-death experience, Su Yeon decided to inherit her husband's ideals and make this change. After that, every day, Su Yeon went to the collapsed factory to look for her husband. During this time, Hwa Jin gave her scarf to Su Yeon, and the two shook hands and made peace. Su Yeon also said words of encouragement to Hwa Jin, who now had a child. One day, Su Yeon's waiting finally paid off. The rescue team found Min Cheol still alive in the ruins of the factory. Immediately, Su Yeon's eyes lit up with hope again. Alright, that's all for today. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give me a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to follow more exciting videos. Until next time. Goodbye, and see you again.